Thank you for watching, liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing right now. Hello world, I'm Chris Pirillo, and this is my wife Diana Pirillo. We met because she was doing research years ago on one of the earlier iPhones, and so because of that, I thought it would be just as appropriate to pull her in on this review of the iPhone 5S. That's the one she's using. This one is mine, and Diana upgraded from the iPhone 4S to the iPhone 5S, which was a pretty dramatic leap, I would say. We've done only one other he said, she said review, but I would say that as far as the iPhone 5S is concerned, we're probably of like-minded, and it doesn't really seem that we diverge in opinions as far as gadgets go, usually.
That's true.
Except for one thing, style. You care about style.
Yes.
Me, not so much. I mean, yes, this is a stylish phone, but Diana, as you can see, is using the space gray iPhone 5S, and she's got a nice little charm in there. This is the one that I unboxed live on YouTube in this channel a couple of weeks ago. She's using it now because we're waiting for her gold version to come in. You want the gold. Why do you want the gold?
Because I'm just so excited for the gold.
Yeah, but why?
Even before they announced the gold, I thought to myself, that would be so cool if they had a gold one. And then they have a gold one, so I had to get it. We had to. And
we're waiting for it to come in. So until then, she is now using the iPhone 5S as her primary iPhone over the iPhone 4S. I've got a review rubric, boy, that was kind of tricky to say, to go through some points that I like to cover when I do hardware reviews. The initial impressions of the iPhone 5S for me were just as solid as they were for the iPhone 5. In fact, if you've used an iPhone 5, you're familiar enough with the iPhone 5S. I wouldn't say they're exactly the same, and anybody who would say that doesn't really know what they're talking about, because they are different. But in terms of an actual weight and feel, what it looks like, in terms of operation, it's going to be somewhat familiar. My initial impressions were, wow, okay, it's a little faster in spots compared to the iPhone 5, and not as fast in other spots. And wow, it's kind of stuttering in areas where I wouldn't think it would stutter anymore, with the hardware being allegedly as fast as it is. And even though empirically the data shows that the iPhone 5S is fast, it's responsive, it's crisp and clean, it's running the latest OS from Apple, iOS 7 at this point in time, but I didn't feel that it was dramatically faster, just in average use, over the iPhone 5, or certainly the iPhone 5C, which is, for the most part, other than casing, the iPhone 5. So my initial impressions were positive, but I wasn't blown away. I wasn't overwhelmed, and some people would say that as far as an S update is concerned, you shouldn't expect to be blown away. That said, my perspective was, that's not really a word. Diana moved, however, from a slightly older device, 2 years old, to a newer device, going from the classic iPhone screen shape, size, resolution, dimension. See how that's a smaller screen compared to the newer screen. This is no longer have any juice. These things are fun to do live to tape. But you, I would say, had a much more dramatic leap going from the 4S to the 5S. So,
absolutely.
Your initial impressions?
I definitely saw it was way faster. I would say twice as fast as this one.
That's what it felt like?
Yeah, that's what it felt like to me. And the camera, amazing.
Okay, well, we'll go right into the camera then. That was another point. She takes photos a lot, mini selfies.
Yeah.
The queen of the selfies here. She posts a lot of her fashion on her Instagram page and her Tumblr page as well. So any females in the audience, or any males who have females in their lives, you may want to, take some...
Follow me on...
Yeah. Okay, so back to the phone. Kind of got awkward there, didn't it? And we're married. How'd that happen? Anyway, the camera is dramatically different. Going from the 5 to the 5S, I wouldn't say as big of a leap, but certainly older iPhones to the iPhone 5S, a pretty big difference in clarity and sharpness.
Front camera, great for selfies, awesome. This one, not so much.
Yeah, it was okay. You know, the older
okay.
one. Right. I mean, but it was 2 years old, so going to a newer piece of hardware. But I would say that the thing that I want the most in a smartphone is really related to the camera, not just the amount of megapixels. It's really about the output. And I have posted sample shots from the iPhone 5S throughout most of my social networks, comparing it to other sample shots from other leading phones, from other platforms and manufacturers. And I would say the iPhone 5S fared very well in low light, in normal light. Many people would ask, hey, Chris, what phone are you using? Because they assumed that the phone was the thing that took the picture. I see this more as a camera more than I do a phone, because this is pretty much the thing that I carry with me everywhere I go. So I want that camera and the shots that it produces to be stellar. The flash, that dual, what do they call it? The true tone flash. I'm sure someone will correct me if I'm wrong. That's by memory, and I think that's just a marketing term. It works exceedingly well in terms of reproducing skin tone. So Diana, what did you think about using the flash when you did?
I loved it. I was a little skeptical about it because I've used so many that I guess have flare and just are ugly.
Sorry, I was taking a sample shot indoors. Now, it may not be perceivable because I've got a different white balance on the screen versus where I happen to be surrounded, you know, in this room. But I would say that's pretty true to life.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
It
Does
works
wash out?
very well. Doesn't wash out.
Yeah.
No green or red or blue overtones. You couldn't imagine how good the pictures are until you compare them against another camera or another smartphone, really. And that is when you really see dramatic differences. So I would give the camera, and I've done this every year. I mean, it improves absolutely every year. The camera does. Not just video quality, because certainly that improved, and you saw the video footage that we recorded, kind of like a Pirillo vlog, which is how I may very well do the camera comparisons moving forward, the video cameras between these various smartphones. The 5S camera was far and away the crown jewel of the iPhone 5S for me.
Mm-hmm.
And for you?
And for me, yeah. And then I also like this button down here, which makes it really easy to, I guess, switch my brightness up and down. Just a little shortcut that wasn't on my...
You're talking about the control center.
Yes, the control center. It wasn't on my 4S, so this is new to me.
And that is an iOS 7 improvement, not necessarily an iPhone 5S improvement. So you may actually have that. You didn't use iOS 7 at all until you got the iPhone 5S, though.
This is the first time.
So just that, I wanted to clarify that. But she appreciated that part of the phone experience in general.
Yeah.
That's good to know. In terms of screen responsiveness, you said it felt faster than the 4S. Did you notice any stutter or lag?
No, I wouldn't say. Every once in a while, but not enough to annoy me.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
That's fair.
Yeah.
I would say that I felt the same thing. I mean, I do see it every once in a while, which is really concerning to me because, you know, Apple is supposed to, you know, be looking after these finer points, but I think that their software has a ways to go in terms of responsiveness with iOS 7 and newer hardware. I have seen more jank and stutter on the iPhone 5S than I was expecting to see, quite honestly. And I was expecting a lot of what I experienced in the iPhone 5 with iOS 7 to kind of dissipate with faster hardware that's twice as fast, empirically. It didn't happen. Apple's got a long way to go in terms of polishing what I thought was already going to be polished. I wouldn't say that iOS 7 on an iPhone 5S is the worst experience in the world, but I don't know if I can say it's the best experience either. And that's really something that I wanted to underscore in this review. You would imagine it's newest hardware, it's super fast. I see so frequently, or too frequently, dropped frames and stutter. Not just bugs that I think could be squished, because no one knows if they're going to be squished. Maybe Apple's not looking after that. That's up to them. Nobody knows if those quote-unquote bugs are going to be addressed. It's just perceivably, there's stutter and lag in iOS, even on the iPhone 5S, and that was really disappointing, and that's something to point out, especially, you know me, I'm all about the smoothness, and I would not say that iOS 7 on the iPhone 5S in the current version has been as smooth as I would have wanted it to be.
I agree.
What about color representation, color quality, text quality? You moved again from the iPhone 4S to the 5S, so the same type of Retina display. You have a taller screen. Naturally, you watch videos, you look at photos. Anything jump out at you, good or bad?
I would say the video quality is good. And then the text messaging, I don't know if it's just me, but the text seemed to get to the other person a lot quicker. Like this one, I would see the little sending, and then it would send. And this one is just like, bam, delivered.
Could be because of the network quality. Could be because it's faster hardware. Either way, it was a better experience for you. In terms of clarity of text, though, I mean, sharp enough? Did you see jaggies? She reads a lot of web pages and celebrity gossip and fashion stuff.
Well, I also read books. Thank you.
Okay, and books. I'm sorry. Yes, books.
Yeah, it's... The font is a little thinner than I would like.
The system font.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but I mean, I wear contacts, so I can see it okay, but I don't necessarily look. I look at the picture, not the words. So. And
I think that's average use. I would have to have the same amount of feedback, but again, that's related to iOS 7, potentially addressed with an accessibility tweak. But it still wraps into the general experience the average user is going to see. And Apple made some pretty dramatic changes that I don't think they necessarily needed to make, and in some ways I think made steps backwards with iOS 7 and the iPhone 5. This is more about the iPhone 5. You already know my thoughts on iOS 7. I thought text was as crisp as it ever has been. Images were as vibrant, as true to life as they ever have been, whether we're talking about still images and video. Diana seems to have had the same type of experience as well. What about audio quality? Do you listen to music on the phone, or do you blast it to a Bluetooth speaker usually?
Usually blast it to a Bluetooth speaker.
That's my terminology. I don't know how you would AirPlay, Bluetooth, whatever it takes. It was average. Didn't sound bad. Even call quality. I put it on speaker all the time. Seemed okay. In fact, one thing I do have to credit T-Mobile for some reason when you call T-Mobile numbers, it sounds like you're calling on Wi-Fi. Like very, very crisp, like voice over IP quality sound. Even though you're talking no one remembers when the phones looked like this. The audio quality was stellar. And I would say that for a speaker on a speaker phone, it was average. Nothing amazing, nothing really to write home about, but not horrible either. No worse than earlier iPhones have been. I didn't notice any audio clipping as far as spoken word or from talking to somebody on the phone was concerned. But I use the speaker mostly for phone calls more than I would music, and I would use external speakers for that. Yeah. I'd assume you as well?
Yeah, I agree. There's nothing that caught my eye. It was the same.
Yeah.
Nothing
felt
special.
The same.
Yeah.
Now, battery. We took our lumps with another review we posted to this channel. I guess we demand a lot from our batteries, more than the average users are concerned. And I would say that I use the iPhone pretty heavily throughout the day, and the battery, it drains. I mean, newsflash, when you use the device, the battery is going to drain. I will find myself towards the evening hours needing to plug in. I would not say the battery is astounding, but I wouldn't say it's horrible either. It depends on what you're doing. Diana, have you ever found yourself, in using this over the past couple of weeks, needing to absolutely needing to recharge at any point in the day?
No.
Do you keep it plugged in?
No, I usually plug it in while I'm taking a shower.
Okay.
And that's
a little bit.
I don't plug it in during the night. I plug it in while I'm taking a shower, and that's enough to last me the day. All
right, and I would say Diana's about as heavy an iPhone user as anybody. She's on it all the time. I mean, okay, not all the time. I'm saying that that's the device you use primarily.
But at nighttime, it's ready for charging.
See, yeah, that's I'm in the same territory. The battery, not amazing, but not horrific either. I would say it's average, just like I said about just about any other battery on the, well, not any other battery. As far as an iPhone battery is concerned, it gets me through the day, and I need to recharge depending on how heavy usage, but it has tended to drain a bit quicker than earlier iPhones for me.
Yeah.
Now, whether that's the lack of optimization with iOS 7, I don't know, but I find myself, well, like I've been using it, I was plugged in earlier today. I'm at 53% right now, and it's early evening. So that just tells you, kind of where I sit, and I'd be able to make it through the rest of the day in using the phone without necessarily needing to recharge, but just when I'm in the car is usually when I need to recharge it. What about app selection? And I think you and I have been using iOS forever. Have you found yourself annoyed by anything in relation to apps? Not necessarily default apps, but apps that you might have downloaded from the App Store.
Well, I actually try to clear a lot of my apps, but to be honest with you, I don't really use that many apps. I just have a handful of them.
I have more than a handful. I probably have too many apps installed on my iPhone and really any device. I keep them organized in folders. The thing that I would say annoys me more than anything with apps on iOS 7, and this is really less about iPhone 5S, but some of the apps that I have had for years have not yet been optimized for the iPhone 5S or the iPhone 5 or the 5C screen, the taller screen. Even Apple's apps, there's at least, hang on, let me see if I can find it. Do I even have it installed? I may not have it installed anymore. Never mind, I uninstalled it. The Keynote remote, it just annoyed me. It wasn't optimized for the screen size. There are a lot of apps out there, despite Apple saying, yes, you can download the app, it may not be optimized for the screen size. So for as much as you may think that, oh, there are all these apps for your iPhone, there are. Not all of them are optimized for either A, iOS 7, and that's painfully apparent when you look at keyboards. So if I, for example, if I open up one of my favorite apps, 1Password, it's how I keep all my passwords organized, the keyboard that it uses is still the old keyboard. It needs to be updated. So now we're dealing with some variations in app quality in the singular app store. And there's not really much Apple can do about it, but it does take away from the experience and the cohesiveness of the experience. And maybe I am more sensitive to that than Diana is, but you didn't notice any issues?
Not with the few apps I have.
All right. As far as the accessories ecosystem, it's an iPhone. It's for the most part the same as an iPhone 5S in terms of shape and weight and design. So I was able to use an iPhone 5. Did I say 5 or 5S? The iPhone 5S, in case I did stumble, is pretty much the same in terms of shape and design, other than a couple of elements, the flash and the Touch ID sensor, which I'll get to in a second. It's the same size as the iPhone 5. So this case worked exceedingly well on the phone, and I'm a very plain kind of guy. It's from Tech21. I'll put the link for you in the video description. Diana, I think you're using another one from that company as well, and you have that charm in there again. And it seems to work fine. So any accessory that you would find for the iPhone 5, and there are plenty of them out there, should work with a 5S. That's another bonus or a benefit of buying into an Apple ecosystem, is the fact that there's so many third parties who support Apple's hardware, because there are so many people who buy Apple's hardware. They are wanting to be supported. And I would assume you would believe the same thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
There wasn't really much to say about that, to Diana's credit. In terms of cost to value, for years, Apple has positioned the iPhone as this is the pinnacle. It's the best thing you can possibly get. I don't know if I would say that in terms of buying the phone at an unsubsidized price. I don't know if it's worth that. If you can get the phone on a subsidized price through your carrier, I would say it is absolutely worth the money. Would the iPhone be worth the money if you weren't buying it through a carrier, or you were buying it unlocked? It's expensive in terms of what you get in relation to other products in the field. So the cost for value isn't where it once was, and it's only because of increased competition that Apple's facing. The hardware itself, I think, it really is stellar. It's a great piece of hardware, but I've said this before, I think iOS 7 is potentially a step in the wrong direction. It's no longer a world. How do I say this? I know I'm going to take so many lumps for saying it. I wouldn't say it's the worst mobile platform, but I wouldn't say it's necessarily the best mobile platform anymore. And that's with iOS 7. And unfortunately, what you get with parity with Apple's software and the hardware is you get, hey, one company controls both experiences. And that works well in some cases, and it's not as apparent in other cases. And I'm not talking about physical cases. I'm talking about more software cases. So there was a lot of things to like about the about the iPhone 5S experience, the hardware and software, and a few things not to like, and that was largely related to my software experience. So the cost for value, I'm not saying this is a slam dunk. And granted, you know, that's my perspective. Diana, you may think completely different than I do.
No, I agree. I would not pay, you know, retail price for a phone if it's not going through a carrier.
And she's not a geek.
Yeah. As much as I want this, I wouldn't do it. It's
too much.
It's too much. It's too much.
So, who is the iPhone 5S for? Someone who wants the latest and greatest hardware, looking for high quality hardware, you know, looking for a rich ecosystem of software and accessories. Maybe not perfect, but at this point I don't know what is perfect. Who is this not for? If you don't need the latest gen hardware, you don't want to spend the money on a 5S. I think you'll be just fine if you want the iPhone with an iPhone 5, if you can still get a hold of one, or the iPhone 5C, which for all intents and purposes is just like the iPhone 5, and a good phone. I mean, it's a good value for what it is, but I'm not talking about the iPhone 5C right now. We're talking about the iPhone 5S. So if you're someone who lives on the bleeding edge, absolutely. If you haven't upgraded your iPhone in a while, and you're looking to upgrade and stay within Apple's ecosystem, yes, it is a worthwhile upgrade. But if you're just an average user, I would not say that this is for you. But that's just my perspective. What about yours?
I would agree. Yeah.
Okay. For the most part?
For the most part.
So I wrote down, or actually typed down, things that I liked about the iPhone 5S and the things that I didn't like about the iPhone 5S. Some of these points may sound a bit nitpicky, but that's kind of the idea behind sharing those thoughts with you. I think that for the most part, overall, the iPhone 5S is a good product, and as long as software improves, it will become a better product, but even now, it's still a good product to buy. Things that I liked, I noted this before, the LED flash array, I noted the Snappy Camera, the Touch ID sensor, very, very fast, not a gimmick. I like the fact that Apple has made iOS 7 64-bit compatible, so now you got the hardware and the software running in conjunction with one another. A lot of the value of that isn't going to be apparent today, but the fact that Apple's made it valuable for that device, or this device, the iPhone 5S, 2 years from now, I think it's a good thing for Apple and for consumers as well. So we don't see the benefits directly, but it's nice to be future compatible. It's also compatible with a wide array of accessories I mentioned as a bonus. A lot of things I didn't like about the iPhone 5S, probably the most nitpicky, is that there is still some distortion in the iPhone 5S camera lens in terms of photos. Nothing worse than I've experienced on smartphone camera lenses before, or certainly iOS devices in the past. The animations to me seem to take a bit too long, and since the iPhone 5S is a flagship device, very, very fast in terms of hardware, raw specs, which I do tend to ignore, the animations don't really seem to mirror or make me feel like I'm using a faster device. Ugh. HDR didn't seem to work as well on this camera, and it could be an iOS 7 tweak, or it could just be the way that the camera works in relation to the software compared to the iPhone 5 and iOS 6. I didn't like the way the lock screen notifications worked with the Touch ID sensor unlocking ability turned on. There are ways around that, and I don't want to dive in too deep. I just found it to be a slight annoyance. And again, I'll go back to what I said before. I'm not a fan of iOS 7. I'm just not. I've used it and tried to use it over and over. I mean, I use this as a primary communications device, when I'm out and about. But iOS 7 just doesn't seem to be very optimized, even for the hardware. There are certain pieces that are, but not overwhelmingly. Did that sound a little overwhelmingly? I liked the device. I do. I just think that they need to continue to tweak the software. The software is falling behind the hardware. Great hardware, questionable software. That's my perspective. But that being said, I know I need a new pair of glasses because these frames are way too... This is the second time I've done this in a video. Did you guys catch that in the vlog the other day? Okay, so I would say that overall, my feelings are positive. I would give the iPhone 5S with software B+. B+.
B+.
What about you?
Yeah, I would give it a B.
B? Wow, I thought I was going to be the critical one. There we go, an iPhone 5S.
Yeah.
B for Diana, B+ for me. I was always a B+ student, though.
Oh, okay.
I never quite got the A. It takes a lot for me to give something an A.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah, like you have to feel it.
Yes. I did not... I felt it B+y.
Yeah.
Because of the camera, really.
As a recommendation.
As a recommendation.
A B.
Okay, fair enough. And I'm going to go with B+.
And if you have a 5, I would stick to the 5.
I was not expecting that, but that's Diana's recommendation. I would say that move to the 5S if you use the camera more than any other piece of hardware.
But who knows? Once I get my gold, I might feel it.
Oh my god. You're going to go from a B recommendation to an A recommendation based on style.
Plus, after the gold comes in.
This is why I appreciate doing the he said, she said with these device reviews, because we've got completely different perspectives. I can't talk today. You say it. What was I trying to say?
Perspective.
Thank you. That's exactly what I was trying to say.
Say gifts.
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 You were tripping through that word in the other Pirillo. Oh, wait, we're not talking about Pirillo vlogs right now. We were talking about the hardware. Thank you for bearing with us. Thank you for remembering to like, comment, subscribe, and share all of our videos.